So you're going to be taking some notes today using this video, and you'll use the notes that you received in class today. If you were absent, they should be in the out tray for you. If you were absent and you can print them out, you can print these out from home. But you can see as you go through this video, you'll need to fill these in. Feel free to pause the video whenever you need to, rewind the video whenever you need to. So we're going to first start talking about the motion of an object is always measured with respect to a reference point. Now there's two vocabulary words in there that we have to understand, motion and reference point. So again, the motion of an object is always measured with respect to a reference point. But the question is, what is motion? Motion is when an object changes position compared to another object that is usually stationary. We refer to that usually stationary object as a reference point. Now, oftentimes we use more than one reference point. We use a group of them. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here is a video that we have where some students made to try to show depending on your reference point, how you detect motion. And once I hit play, I'm going to fast forward here to right there.
But sometimes your perspective isn't always where it needs to be. That's why you can't always believe your eyes.
Hey, can I have some of that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Is Gregory spinning, or is it the camera in the back? If you guessed B, then you're correct.
Another example is, it doesn't actually look like I'm driving when I really am.
And in this case, I'm not actually driving.
Relative to me, Gates isn't going very fast.
But to a bystander, they both are. Well, Davis isn't.
So you saw in that video that they altered the frame of references sometimes to make motion appear a certain way. Just like a pencil held in someone's hand may appear to be at rest, but to an observer in a car speeding by, the pencil may be
This video, you learn just why perspective and our frame of reference plays.
Okay, so on the next part, we're going to define frame of reference. So a frame of reference is absolutely needed to describe motion accurately and completely. And you'll see that there is a place in your notes for you to say what a frame of reference is. So a frame of reference is a system of objects that are not moving with respect to one another. And that's what we pick to detect motion. There are a lot of things that you can pick for frame of reference, but a meaningful one will allow you to describe motion in a clear and relevant manner. And this is actually a little bit confusing just by looking at a definition, and it's easier to understand through examples. So for instance, let's look at movement in relation to a frame of reference. When you look at this, image, we are noticing that the train is moving. Now, how do we detect that the train is changing its position? We're using a set of objects to detect its motion. We're using the platform that's standing there. We're using the building walls, the people standing on the platform. That is our set of objects, our frame of reference, that we're using to note that the train is actually moving. So if a person right here standing on the platform were to look at somebody inside that train, they would see that person speeding by them. Again, because of the frame of reference that they're using. However, the people on the train, when they look at each other, they don't seem to be moving at all. Again, if I use my frame of reference to be, if I'm inside this train and I had these windows completely darkened out so that I couldn't see anything outside, my frame of reference would be the seat, the walls, these people standing here. And when I look at that set of objects, they're not moving in relation to one another, and I'm not moving compared to them. So I would say I'm not changing my position. So a train moving past a platform speeds by the people on the platform, but the people in the train looking at each other don't seem to be moving. Now, if the people look outside of the train and they see the houses and the street lights and so on, and they use that as their frame of reference, that as their set of objects to compare their motion, then they're definitely going to say, I am moving with this train. Now, wacky frame of references can completely confuse you. So if you've ever been to an amusement park where you go through that bridge and the walls are spinning around you, well, your brain is used to walls being stationary. So when a wall is moving around you, your brain gets this weird information and it thinks, well, I must be the thing moving then. And it's really difficult to walk through this tunnel on the bridge. There's also in amusement parks where they have rooms tilted. And, your brain is used to seeing rooms like the walls and the floors are at 90-degree angles to one another. And when everything gets tilted, your frame of reference ends up a little bit off. And it's really difficult to walk in these rooms. Here's an art piece that was put together. It's an optical illusion. And I'm going to let you look at this so you can see how that can mess with your brain.
Behind that glowing hallway is a really cool art exhibit. But don't take my word for it.
This exhibit was totally cool.
And Michael Landy has a PhD.
I'm a professor of psychology and neuroscience at NYU.
Anyway, see for yourself.
What's interesting to me about this piece as a perceptual scientist is that it demonstrates things that I find fascinating about perception. That perception is always an interplay between information that you're getting immediately from your senses and prior knowledge that you use to interpret that information. And when those match, the system works really well.
And when they mismatch, you get a very confusing experience that a lot of people seem to enjoy. When the exhibition was in LA, it drew
somewhere between 17,000 and 25,000. But yeah, a bunch.
That's artist Julian Hober, and his relation to this work?
I made it.
Demon Hill, that's the name of the piece, is inspired by
this stock roadside attraction.
Specifically, gravitational mystery spots, billed as places where gravity doesn't behave normally.
You get nauseated and water runs uphill, and it was totally mind-blowing, and it infuriated me.
Because Julian started to wonder if these spots really were gravitational anomalies.
And all sense of reason said, no, that's absurd.
So he tried making one, and here is Roadside Attraction, translated for the New York art world.
The version that you see in New York reveals the entirety of the trick. It's a room that the interior is completely normal. It's 90-degree angles between the walls, 90-degree angles between the walls and the floor. And then that room is tipped so that it's basically set on one point. It's a compound angle of about 20 degrees one way and 9 degrees the other way.
What happens when you walk into the room is that the senses you rely on every day to navigate the world
disagree with one another, and so they fight it out.
I felt seasick.
It is actually kind of disorienting.
Kids freak out. Kids love it, and for me there's a lot of art historical reference, but you don't need any of that to experience the work. It's a very direct and very unsubtle experience.
It hits you at your core. kind of literally. Your vestibular system, your inner ear, is telling you that gravity is one way.
It's the prior knowledge interacting with sensory information from the room
that messes you up. And prior knowledge has a reputation for doing this.
We found that in our own experiments. If you give somebody a collection of lines and they're judging their